This is an India Today exclusive. I'm being joined by Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez. Many thanks for joining us, sir, on India Today. Let's begin with the sessions that you have attended. Lots of sessions, but a lot of conversation on climate change. Argentina, like many others across the world, are suffering from climate change. Has there been any consensus? Are all the countries speaking in one voice when it comes to climate? Or are we still seeing differences between India, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia on one side and the West on the other?
The problem of climate change has not begun just right now. It's a problem that dates back quite a while. In truth, the developed world has contaminated the world, and the world that wants to develop has not contaminated, but is paying the consequences, the same consequences as the part of the world that actually contaminated. And in my morning address, my aim was to be very honest, especially with all my experience, as this is my fourth G20 summit. Everyone, North and South, realize that there is a climate crisis. We all are pulling our hair and saying we have to put an end to this climate crisis. The most powerful countries say that they will help the poorer countries to make this energy transition and improve the climate condition. But so far, it only has been words. We all make the same diagnosis, we all talk about the same solutions, but solutions are never forthcoming. Because some of us are actually climate creditors, because we were not responsible for this situation. And that's what we are demanding, that even though we are all responsible, not all of us have the same responsibility. And therefore, those who have contributed the most to this environmental situation are the ones who must make the more contribution to solving it. And there is actually no more time for words. We have to move to action.
Right, sir. Very important points. In the first session and the joint communique, that the outcome document that we are all talking about, is there any consensus? Or are we still looking at a joint communique and a chair's summary, which means a no consensus document?
Well, it would be very important for us to have an actual final declaration, because it has been a very important G20 summit, because India has worked very hard and because it is what should be done. But I am not positive that we will ultimately achieve this outcome, because some countries do not want to talk about the war in Ukraine, but the war in Ukraine actually exists, and its consequences have an impact on the entire world. I hope that we will be able to find a consensus document that will make it possible for us to reach a final declaration. The fact is that the problem posed by the war will not be solved by just talking about the potential effects on the economy, but by facing the reality and the effects that the war is having on the entire world.
Right, so were there fireworks? Was there a fight between Russia, Sergei Lavrov, and the American side? Was there any fireworks at the first session? Were there any fireworks?
Bueno, tienen miradas diferentes, claramente. Tienen posiciones diferentes. Rusia es el país más involucrado en la guerra.
So, of course, they have different views. Russia is no doubt the country that is most involved and that actually caused this war. And the US and the European Union, the European side, took the opposing side. And there are third countries like us who condemned the war but wanted to end and just say, well, stop this, stop sending weapons, do something to end it. So there's these three positions. There are countries that say, okay, Russia acted wrongly against multilateralism, but there is no sense in this war, so we should stop it. We should find ways to stop it. Then there are other countries that say, well, Russia acted wrongly, let's support Ukraine. And of course there's Russia, which says, okay, I did as I should. So these three positions have been laid bare during the session.
Y debe ser Ucrania acompañada en su lucha, y Rusia que dice, yo hice lo que correspondía. Las tres posiciones hoy se escucharon.
So clearly no consensus, I can see that. But there was consensus on one front, that's the African Union's membership in the G20. How does Argentina look at that? Voice of the Global South is what we have been talking about. Voice of the developing and emerging economies is what we've been talking about. With African Union at the table, what do you think G20 or G21 will now look like, and what do they bring to the table?
Lo primero que creo es que es un acto de reparación.
First, I'd like to say that I think that it's an act of historical reparation to have Africa sitting at this table. Africa has been scourged by Europe for centuries, and that's why I welcome the fact that they're doing something to make amends, to repair, to make some reparation. In spite of everything that has been done to it, Africa remains a very rich continent that can make huge contributions, not just in terms of resources like minerals, gas, oil and energy, but also from a cultural point of view. Of course, during my address, I welcomed the incorporation of Africa into the G20. But I also asked the G20 to consider the incorporation of the community of Latin American and Caribbean states into the G20. Because the reality faced by that community is very similar to that faced by Africa. We think of the Caribbean as dozens of small islands which are independent countries, but these are actual countries that have been sustaining the worst part of the effects of climate change, and they are not represented at the G20. Latin America has many of what is considered mid-income countries, medium-income countries. But what nobody is considering is that we hold 60% of the world's poverty. That is why during Brazil's presidency of the G20, I would like to have the CELAC join the G20, which would also be an act of reparation.
Se incorpore a la CELAC dentro del G20. Sería también un acto de reparación.
I was just going to about to ask that, but you've already answered it. That's a brilliant, brilliant piece of news that Argentina is going to propose CELAC's entry into the G20. There's a very important bilateral issue that I need to ask. India-Argentina contact, engagements. We're looking at Make in India, and we're looking at Argentina buying defense items from India, be it Tejas light combat aircraft or, for that matter, BrahMos missiles. Is there an order in place? How are you looking at defense cooperation?
El vínculo entre India y
the link between Argentina and India is a very solid link that is looking constantly to grow and become even deeper. We're now partners within the BRICS, and that provides us with a better opportunity to actually make a better relationship. So I believe there's a lot ahead of us, and the field of defense, is one of the many fields that we should explore and analyze. What I value the most about the relationship with India is that we have a shared view both about the present world and the solutions to the different challenges we face. So I've had the occasion to talk to Modi, and I have found that we have very similar views on both the problems and the solutions to those problems. And I'm really betting on that. I'm putting all my support in that. And about India, well, I think it's a huge country with vast potential. And Argentina also can offer both food and energy, which are the things that the world of the future will need.
Es un país que también ofrece lo que el mundo necesita en el futuro: alimentos y energía, con lo cual tenemos mucho por hacer.
On that note, hoping that there's going to be more engagement between India and Argentina, I'd like to thank you for joining us here on India Today for an exclusive conversation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Gracias.